Hello, friends. What happens when centuries-old Franciscan values shape the heart of a modern church leader? Today we are honored to welcome the Reverend Dr. Amy Slaughter, Episcopal priest and rector of St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center. In this conversation, Amy shares her inspiring journey of faith and how the Franciscan way has shaped her personal spirituality and transformative leadership. We are the Good News team, Lynn Shematek, and Deacons Jon Shematek and Lauren Welch.
Welcome to the Reverend Dr. Amy Slaughter. It's so good to have you. Lauren and I are thrilled that you're joining us today, Amy.
I'm so happy that you all asked me. This is exciting, especially to see both of you again and to have a conversation together. This is wonderful.
Yeah, we go back sometime now that I'm thinking about it, right?
I think Lauren and I might go back a little bit further than you and I, Jon. Maybe just about 20 years.
You were both in preschool together then.
That's right.
So, Amy, I see you're wearing a collar that's consistent with the Episcopal Church. Yeah, so we know you're a priest, but what I've learned very recently is that there's another dimension to your religious life. So could you talk about that? This is fascinating to me. Is that a medal that you're wearing around your neck?
It's a wooden tau cross, and I wear it because I am a novice in the Anglican Third Order of the Society of St. Francis. This is my second year as a novice, and it's just an incredible religious order that supports my whole spiritual life and being. I think I was always a Franciscan, and as I came to discover that there were religious orders in the Episcopal Church, I was delighted to meet so many folks who are connected with the Third Order. It's a wonderful community.
And so how did you find that order, and what's it all about? This is news to me too. I hadn't heard about this.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because the good people here at St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center really called it out of me in a particular kind of way. As you all may know, our St. Francis is the result of a merger of two extant Episcopal congregations in Baltimore County. And when they came together, the vestry leadership did a wonderful community building activity, asking everyone connected with our community to pray about what we might be called as a new community. There were 4 names that were initially the most popular, and then there was a vote. And that name that was chosen was St. Francis. And the most beautiful reasons about why folks put forward St. Francis, what they saw here, love of creation, peacemaking, reconciliation, deep spirituality. And that really pushed me to go deeper in my relationship with Jesus in the way of St. Francis and Clare. And that's when I discovered the Third Order.
Wow. And so I assume that is it like when I think of orders, it's not cloistered or really, you're not in a monastery, you're in the world.
I'm in the world. Yeah.
But you do take vows, I assume.
So the Third Order, as St. Francis imagined it, would be an order where lay people, anybody in their regular lives, could follow in the way of Francis and follow Jesus in the way of Francis and Clare. There was always a Third Order. And in the Roman Catholic tradition, there is a Third Order. They're called the Order of Secular Franciscans. You may have heard of them. But there's also an order of Lutheran Franciscans. There's an order of ecumenical Franciscans. And I think it's a testament to the power and charisma of Francis and the call to authenticity that he and Clare were living in the 13th century. We have a pope in the Roman Catholic tradition who chose the name Francis for his papacy. And there's so many folks outside of church circles, outside of faith circles, who know who Francis of Assisi is and are committed to similar values of love, creation, peace, and justice.
Amy, can you describe how that has deepened your spirituality?
I would love to. So if there is a website, that tssf.org, and the first line on that website is, "Are you seeking a spirituality of joy?" And I want to tell you, I am always seeking a spirituality of, and as I have met folks on this particular Franciscan journey, there is such a lightness and such a joy that is a charism of the Franciscan spirit. We meet monthly for formation. It's a very well organized formation process. We write a rule of life. We are matched with guardians in our formation process. So we're not all local. We talk on the phone or through Zoom. It's an incredibly life-giving process, deep spiritual reflection on the Eucharist, on justice, on reconciliation, on confession, on penitence, and how we might live that out in our day-to-day lives as a person who is in the Third Order. It's really helpful for me, and you all may know this also as deacons. As a priest, it sounds funny, but sometimes I'm not tending to my own relationship with God because I'm focusing on tending to other people's relationship with God, even though I know that my ability to tend and support and nurture other people's faith walks depends on my own faith walk. Having this community separate from my work as a priest really allows me to be fed and nourished in a broader way. Then I bring that into my leadership as a rector here at St. Francis.
That's really great. This sounds not only the values of the order, but the spirituality of it sound like a perfect match for you, knowing you. One of the things I was wondering about is how this actually informs or influences your life as the rector or leader of a parish. I noticed the name of your parish is Parish and Community Center. So I know Lauren and I would like to hear about that too. Can you just tell us about how this Franciscan way is influencing your role as rector at St.
There's so many wonderful ways I could say that. In my rule of life, within the context of the Third Order, I commit to various practices. I commit to study, I commit to work, I commit to service. There are these 9 areas in which I commit to learning and growing as a Franciscan. That draws me into places in the Franciscan world that I hadn't ever been before. Franciscan theologians, for example, I had not previously been aware of, but who are writing about incredible things. Sister Elia Delio might be someone that you all know. She's a Franciscan theologian in the Roman Catholic tradition who's now writing incredible. She's also a scientist, writing these incredible reflections on AI and being human, deeply connected with Francis. It was said that Francis created the first live nativity scene. And it's fascinating that a Franciscan in the 21st century would be thinking about AI and what is human from the standpoint of the incarnation. It's really expanded my work here. It reminds me to play and hold things lightly. Sometimes I get very focused on my work and my role here in this congregation that I forget that playfulness is also a gift of God. I actually gave myself the assignment this year, so far this year, to be more playful, to nurture that creative spirit within me as part of my spiritual discipline, as part of my Franciscan journey. Those are a couple of ways intersects with my work and leadership here. You asked about the Parish and Community Center. So I'm happy to respond to that. The former Epiphany Episcopal Church and the former St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Towson both understood themselves as community centers. They lived that out differently, but that was a part of who they understood themselves to be in the world. And during that process, I was an associate at the former Epiphany. The two vestries really prayed and discerned that they wanted that we were a parish. We were going to be St. Francis, as I told you, St. Francis Episcopal Parish. That Episcopal identity was very important to maintain. The parish identity was very important for folks coming together, and a community center. It's wonderful because it's been a journey about how we as St. Francis are going to live that out. We're not living it out the same way that the two former parishes lived it out, because we're a new community and it's a new time and a new congregation. It's a process of discovery. Right now, as I look out on our parking lot here, we have our monthly food distribution event. And that is an incredible, amazing gathering of people in the community and of the community and neighbors from the community. There are people connected to St. Francis because this is their church. They come every monthly Thursday for this, or every Wednesday for our free community dinner, which is called Welcome Table Wednesday. And that's a whole portion of our community that exists in union with our Sunday morning worshiping community. It's a different way of building relationship within and outside the community.
It's a different way of looking at community, right?
We have a community missioner on staff. Her name is Carrie Reed. She's an incredible leader, and she and I both manage our Facebook page for St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center. What I shared today on our Facebook page was a picture of the folks preparing the tables for people to come and receive food. And to me, that's living out our faith and community in a very particular, concrete, tangible way, especially at this moment where people are so hungry. They're so hungry for spiritual renewal. They're so hungry for community. As you all know, the epidemic of isolation that is in our country, I can't help but think that is part of what's fueling some of the divisions in our country now. People are isolated, they're alone. So many of us don't even know that what we're looking for is community. For me, when I found this Franciscan order, I had that sense of, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that this is what I was looking for. I see that coming to be here at St. Francis Episcopal Parish and Community Center.
So, Amy, another question that I have, I was out at the St. Francis Parish and Community Center website. That's beautiful. I love your website. It's a very, I guess maybe it is a Franciscan kind of feel to it. It has a beauty and a simplicity, accessible. Congratulations on that.
Let me lift up, that's the work of Lisa Gould. Lisa is an officer here. She's an incredible graphic designer, and she also designed our logo with the Wolf of Gubbio, if you know that story.
Oh, absolutely.
It's her vision. It's just beautiful.
And kudos to her. It's really a beautiful site. One of the things I noticed about it, very prominent on your homepage, is a ministry to Spanish-speaking folks. Is that when you're talking with Lauren just now about community? And so that's a whole other kind of community in a way. Can you talk about how St. Francis Parish has worked with the Latinos?
Yeah, I appreciate that question so much. It's interesting because both of the former churches that came together in merger in 2020 and were together in a merged space for 7 weeks until COVID shut everything down. Both of those parishes were white flight parishes from Baltimore City. And we have letters from the rectors and the bishop at that time about how those congregations understood themselves to need to be in the county, following what they saw was their community leaving the city and going to the county. Now, we can think about that in a lot of different ways now in 2025, but that's what they felt called to do, and that's what they did. There are still some folks here at St. Francis who remember that at both former congregations in Sunday school together at Epiphany when it was in Govans, or at St. Thomas when it was on the Alameda. It's amazing. I used to say that God gave me this sermon that I've never preached, which is a sermon I need to always give to myself. As preachers both know, we're always first preaching to ourselves. But that sermon was, you can run, but you can't hide. Baltimore County 50 years ago is as diverse as Baltimore City may have been at that time. Our neighbors, Spanish-speaking folks, our local public school that we partner with is 50% Spanish speaking. It's an international school. This is our community. This is who we are. The United States is the third largest Latino country in the world. Behind Brazil is the largest, Mexico is the second, and the United States is the third, with 55 million people in the United States that identify as Latino or having Latino heritage. Many different countries of origin, many different stories of arrival here. Many folks, especially out west, were already here before the United States. They were in Mexico before the United States moved the border. It's a wonderful journey for us as a community. We have community agreements we put together in the last couple of years. They're in Spanish and in English that talk about how do we want to be together? How do we want to be together? And what our values are. One of the values is having bilingual opportunities. Do we know fully what that looks like? No. Are we working on it? Yeah, we're working on it. This year we will have a bilingual Easter vigil, very small. We're starting that. I am practicing the Eucharistic prayer in Spanish, and people are incredibly generous about that. It's really just the context in which we are in, and loving one another and loving our neighbors and being in relationship with our neighbors.
That is such good news to hear about you and the church. Are breaking down those walls and those barriers and recognizing the community of everyone, all of us human beings.
I want to be really clear, and we've talked about this. I've talked about it from the pulpit when we gather in whatever ways that we're gathering, but we are a very diverse community. We are a diverse partisan political beliefs community. We are not all the same. And so what a witness to our God who welcomes all. What a witness to our God who gathers us all together, that we can hold ourselves together. And it's hard, Lauren and Jon. It's not as a fairy tale. It's work, it's commitment, it's respecting the dignity of each other and asking for clarifications. And as Bishop Carey says, clarity is kind, and being direct and transparent and learning together and having space for that. I'm just learning an enormous amount from these folks in this community here.
That's great.
Amy, in building this community that you are doing a tremendous job at, what has been the
most challenging for me has been not letting my fear drive the bus. Sometimes my fear drives the bus. I remember especially last year before the election, I felt very comfortable with our diversity of opinion and speaking about how we disagree. Then the election happened and I started to get a little bit afraid because I wasn't sure, is this beautiful, fragile community going to be able to sustain with God's help? I believe we will. I need to get out of my own way and out of God's way.
Amy, I'm wondering about surprises that you may have encountered along the way. And you're
Oh, sorry.
interesting. I knew you when you were a layperson and kind of a community
I know.
activist and all that sort of thing. You
Yes,
were a baby and you and Lauren were in nursery school together.
Surprises. Gosh, that's such a good question. I think one moment sticks out right now, and that is, as you all know, we get glimpses of God. We don't get to see the fullness of God, but we get these glimpses, and part of it is being ready, or in my experience, being open and ready and looking for those glimpses of God. I remember early days after the pandemic, it was a long time before we actually sat down and ate together. Do you remember these days where we to have communion together? We couldn't have a potluck together. I remember one of the first times that we were eating together, we were bringing in a potluck, a family that was Spanish speaking, and I didn't know as much Spanish as I know now. They had come to our indoor choice pantry where folks can come and shop for what they would like. They had gotten maseca, like a corn flour, beans, and rice here. They came the next week and had made beans, rice, and a meal to share with everybody here at St. Francis. And I remember talking to them, asking them how they made the dish, but I couldn't speak Spanish and they couldn't speak English. The person pulled up YouTube videos of people rolling out the tortillas and making the beans. I don't think I even have words for the layers of community spirit and the layers of hospitality that are just like all came together in just that one moment. And the goodness that we are. We have goodness in our heart, and most people want to live out of that goodness and share that goodness with one another. That's been my experience.
Yeah, I think ours too. Amy, this has been great. Lauren always has one more question up her sleeve. Lauren, what's your question up your sleeve for Amy?
Wow, Amy, you have shared so much, and your spirituality, your joy. What wisdom, what advice would you like to leave our listeners and watchers with as we end today's session?
One of the great tangible, practical gifts that I have worked on in the last 3 years in a very intentional way, more than ever before in any other job or ministry setting, has been on conflict resolution and mediation. I haven't had formal mediation training, ongoing practice, deliberate practice to continue to stay connected even when it's really hard. There's so much of it on the internet. Like, we're all formed so deeply by that. I remember one of our leaders, she's on the vestry, when she went to the College for Congregational Development and was learning about this model, the trust development. She had such a wise question for us as vestries and as the vestry leaders, and that is, how can we build trust in this community when at this time everybody's a conspiracy theorist? And that was so powerful to me because it's certainly true. In so many ways, we are outside of our community. We're formed in this sort of atmosphere of suspicion, and that practice, and I did it a couple of different ways. I did some online learning, I did some in-person learning. We had a staff member at the time named Molly Phelps, who is a social worker, and she put together some processes for us to really learn how to do that and to practice doing that, to stay, don't be afraid, don't run away. It's okay. You can stay connected through hard things. And I think that would be what I would want folks to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I just love to end on a message of hope like that. And that's what the church is about.
Amen.
That's our product. So, Amy, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom, your words, your presence. It's been wonderful to have you here with us. We'll include websites and Facebook links in the show notes so folks can find out more about St. Francis Parish and Community Center and about you and the work you're doing. They just have to look there and it'll be right there for them.
Thank you so much, Jon and Lauren. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lynn, in the background.
Jon and I want to thank all who are watching and listening for the gift of your time with us today. Until next time, peace and blessings.
This episode of Good News has been brought to you by Listening for Clues. For more podcasts, check out our YouTube channel or our website listeningforclues.com.